We talk about that, the generational differences. You're a boomer, right?
Yes. Yep.
Mike, I don't know if Mike agrees with me, but I feel like your generation is the last generation that actually knows how to do stuff physically. And our generation, the millennials, were the generation that we grew up. Like, I grew up with the tech industry, with the internet, but I also grew up working with my dad, doing manual labor. So I kind of know both areas. The generation after me, they don't know how to do stuff like work on cars. I mean, no one can work on the new cars these days. They're so new.
The mechanics can't work on them now.
I know. You need a computer to fix it.
Right.
But I feel like we're losing. I can't really articulate it well, but we're losing the, I guess the real men. You know, as the generation gets older. Yes. You ever think about stuff like that?
Yeah, I think about it, and it's there. You know, there's times when I question how prolific is that. You know, because you run into the occasional guy that, man, he can do anything. You know, we see him at work all the time. You meet him out in the real world. But, you know, I guess I'm a boomer, but at the age that I was born, I'm kind of like on the tail end of the boomers. But our parents grew up, and especially our grandparents lived through it, but our parents grew up, a lot of us, in the Depression. You didn't throw anything away. You didn't waste anything, you know. Food, whatever. If it broke, you were going to fix it. You know, you're going to find somebody to weld. You were going to go, you had a tap and die where you could rethread your bolts or retap bolt holes and stuff like that. But you fixed it. The time frame that I grew up in is more like things were becoming more disposable. You know, I still, you know, when the refrigerator broke, you called somebody to fix it. When the TV broke, you didn't go get it. When you call the guy and he came and put tubes in it, which nobody's going to know about today, but they would put new tubes in it. You know, the remote was the youngest kid. You know, get up and go change the channel or hold the rabbit ears a certain way, you know, to get the good signal. But we don't have that anymore, you know, and part of that is well, I got a lot of philosophy around why we're that way. But, you know, today there's so many kids that are growing up in broken families. When I grew up, there was I knew some kids that were growing up with me that were in divorced families, you know, parents were divorced or maybe a death, a parent died or something like that, and there was a single parent raising them. But we tended, and I see this the way I raised my kids, you started seeing a kind of a movement to where we coddled our children. You know, I grew up doing chores. I had to do those chores. After I did them for a little while, it finally became a thing where you'd get a little bit of allowance, you know. But for the most part, taking trash out on Tuesday morning was my job. You know, you got to go put it in the trash can, take it out to the street and all that good stuff. Or whatever, mow the yard, a lot of different things. And we don't do that now. We don't inconvenience our kids now with that. And that's why they're not learning. It's because we're not pushing them to go do that. We don't hold them accountable for that. It's you know, I'd rather tell little Johnny to go out and, or not bother him about going out to take the trash out and let him stay on his video game or whatever than deal with him being irate for a minute or two, you know.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know, you know, I kind of see nowadays where, you know, when I messed up, my mom tore that butt up. Mm-hmm. When my dad got home from work, because my mom didn't work when I was growing up. When my dad got home, guess what? I got round two.
That was the scariest thing ever when my mom used to say, you wait till your dad gets home.
Right.
Oh, I still get chills thinking about it.
But he got beat twice. Nowadays, it's like, wait till dad gets home and then dad does it.
No, nowadays, that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen.
Oh, well, we're the hybrid. We're like in between, so we still got beat.
Yeah. Not beat. We say beat, but I got spanked.
You got spanking, right?
Like punched in the face. I mean,
I never got beat. I say beat to be funny about it, but I got spanked. And these days you can't do that.
And you deserved it, and it worked.
Yes.
You know, that's the key, you know.
Like touching the hot stove. Shit, I don't want to touch that again.
Right. I laugh about my kids. So when my kids were young, and my son is 3 years older than my daughter, you know, so he'd get spankings. He'd mess up and he'd get spankings. And I tell him nowadays, you know, that first of all, I don't remember spanking him past he was about 6 years old. He learned. He learned what disappointing mom and dad was. and that disappointment weighed on him harder than the belt or whatever, But I don't remember spanking my daughter twice, and she'll joke about, I saw you spank Jake. I didn't want none of that.
Yeah.
So, discipline does work. I think we have a general lack of discipline in society.
Yeah.
It begins in the family, but we see it in the real world all the time now.
No accountability.
Yeah.
Like anywhere.
You mentioned the divorce, and that's definitely true. There's the divorce rate is higher than ever these days.
Right.
But I see kind of both sides of it. Back then, it was you didn't want to get divorced because it was shameful, right? So maybe people stayed in relationships longer than they really wanted to. Maybe they were miserable. And then on the flip side of it is it's so easy to get a divorce these days.
Right.
No one bats an eye. So people are just getting married like nothing,
right,
and they're divorcing.
So that's fodder for podcast number 65. You can invite me back for that, and we can talk about what my thoughts on the spiritual effect of what that is. But yeah, divorce was a stigma. It happened, but it was a stigma. And but I can also tell you that I'm kind of getting off track where we were going. But
there's no track.
But okay, so there's
this podcast episode is brought to you by BCN Supplements. BCN Supplements is a Texas-based company that produces and manufactures everything right here in the United States, and they cater to every single person on the fitness spectrum. Whether you're a seasoned hybrid athlete, like myself, or you're just now starting to pay attention to your health, like Mike, BCN has products to fit your needs. Lately, I've been using BCN's pre-workout mix on my lifting days, and it's completely transformed my workout sessions. I've never really been into pre-workouts because I don't like the way most on the market make you feel, and I hate that after crash. But you don't get any of that with BCN's pre-workout mix. I've noticed that I've had more focus during my lifts and more energy to carry me through longer workouts, and that pump you get is freaking amazing and lasts well after your workout. Head to bcnsubs.com to place your order today, and be sure to use promo code CWJM to receive 10% off your next purchase. BCN Supplements, helping build a better you from the inside out.
There's statistics that show that people that struggle through a troubled marriage, if they'll stick with it and fight it out, their marriage is better after that. And it's, that's God's way. He puts us through hardship so that we learn and we grow. And it's when we quit and walk away, He'll accept that. But, and He'll adjust His plan for us according to that. But He really expects us to stick it out and, learn to deal with the differences and grow from that. And I think that that's another effect of the throwaway culture that we were talking about with Picket toys, TV, refrigerator, a microwave, we're just filling up. When you drive by an area where there's a dump, look how big the mountain is, and we're in coastal prairie, man. There shouldn't be nothing sticking up but anthill. But that's our society now. We just throw it away. We don't reuse anything. We wear throwaway diapers when we're babies now. When I grew up, we had cotton diapers, and Mama washed them and hung them out on the line, and I got to wear it again, next day or two or something like that. People don't even know what that is anymore. But that's to me, that's an effect that is really striking in our culture nowadays. Is everything is disposable.
It's scary.
That's interesting you said it. I mean, I never thought about that, how the world became disposable. And, we talk about all the time now is the world of abundance. Like you can get anything whenever you want. And back in the day, you had to work for it. It's like It wasn't. I mean, if you wanted, even on TV, if you wanted to watch a show, you had to wait. It's like a world based on patience.
Do you remember? You knew the MTV days. When you watched the music video, like when your favorite song came on, you waited all day to watch your favorite music video. This is a dumb analogy, but now you can just pull it up on YouTube. You don't have to try. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was a big thing. Or you would listen to the radio and wait for your favorite song to come on. And it's just so easy to get. I think that's a good thing. It's so easy to get what you want these days.
Yeah. But you built that patience. And even for the radio, I'd be in the bathroom like, shit, I missed it. I got to wait another hour or whatever. Yeah. I don't even know if it's going to come on again. You know, it's like, we're missing that patience aspect. I'm losing it myself. I was watching, you sent me a video that we were trying to recreate a video, and the video was like 2 minutes. It wasn't long at all. And I don't think you could have paid me to watch the whole thing. It's not that it wasn't interesting either. It's just like, I don't want to watch it. I don't have the time or patience.
We're getting conditioned to whatever TikTok is like 10 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
We're getting conditioned to need new content every 10 seconds. That goes back to, all right, well, this husband sucks. I'll get another one.
It's a stimulus. Yes. It's a stimulus thing. You know, we want it now. And we're always looking for that next high, if you want to call it that next little stimulus that's coming along. And we want it to happen quick.
Yeah.
We don't want to wait on it. And we're a culture that has no self-discipline anymore. None at all. When I'm on the highway and I'm driving on it, that's my highway. If you're on it, that's fine, but you play by my rules. And if you don't, you know, you're liable to get the wrath of Eric driving down the road, you know, verbally. You won't hear it, but, you know, inside of my truck's echoing.
You won't see it in that little truck out there.
Yeah.
Golly. Yeah. People are getting crazy on the road, too. Like you were mentioning, is like their patience is wearing thin, and people are getting out of their cars now with bats and fighting people, and it's getting wild.
Right.
It's like, but it's something so small. We're triggered really easily too now.
We're all living on top of each other now too. Like look at these subdivisions.
Right.
They're packing everybody in like little rats almost.
So that's something, you know, you bring that up, and we're going to kind of diverge a little bit here, and it's not a long topic, but I just noticed, I was looking at some political stuff with the elections starting up, you know, early voting and all that, and I didn't realize it was a deal. But there's a significant pushback in Brazoria County for, I'm trying to think of the term they used, but dense development. You know, where houses are 20 feet apart.
There's a pushback? Or
there's a pushback from certain entities because it's bringing in, so, you know, just for anybody that's not from Brazoria County, Texas, Brazoria County is traditionally very conservative. We still are for the most part, but we're seeing the influx of progressiveness coming in from Houston, you know, like into Pearland, northern Brazoria County.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's just going south, and it's going to consume the whole county. And I think that conservatives out there are pushing against that. There's nothing wrong with somebody, a developer, you know, building a development and all that, but they want to put some guidelines on it, because when you throw a shotgun community up, there's a high potential that you're going to get a progressive element in there.
Yeah.
And there's enough people in Brazoria County that in the phrase that I saw the other day was, don't harass Brazoria County. Mm-hmm. You know, and just you look at the difference. If you pay attention in the political realm, how Brazoria County's run versus Harris County, or Montgomery County versus Harris County, or Bexar County, Dallas and Tarrant County, you know, or
Austin and
Travis, right? When you look at them, it's a very progressive, liberal atmosphere, and right now, you know, there's enough conservatives in Brazoria County that they're pushing against that. So
it's I used to work on a morning show in Austin, a conservative talk station, and I was younger, and I always thought the guy talking, his name was Sergeant Sam, and he worked for the Austin Police Department for a long time. He retired, and then he was head of the Austin Police Association. He would go on these rants, boy, just get hardcore. He's hardcore Rush Limbaugh conservative, even further than that probably. And he would talk about the how Austin was setting up the downtown corridor of these high rises and packing people in. He would say packing people in like sardines and making them dependent on the government in a way.
Right.
Because then the government can control them. And that was, and Austin's very liberal in their ideology. So there's something to it. I don't know what it is, but
it is. And that's podcast 66. I lost my tongue there.
67.
So what are, with that being said, what are the negative effects of, they're pushing back. So what are their opinions on the negative effects?
Well, you start to see things, erosion of civil liberties and rights, look at Harris County and how they handle the vaccine mandates and mask mandates and all of that. And that's 67, by the way, if you want to talk.
Man, we're counting up.
Man,
just leave the camera running.
That's what I told you the other day. Yeah. You better plan on a 5 hour
We're plugged in, so maybe.
But we enjoyed a lot of freedom around that. And our county government pushed back real hard on everything they could about vaccine mandate, and especially like mask mandate and things like that. Trying to maintain that individual liberty, I guess is what I'd call it. Yeah. you have the right to make the decision that you think is best for you or your family, your kids, whatever. I have no right to tell you that. And that's one thing we talk about, how our culture's changed. That's one of them. Is I grew up and I had all the rights in the world, but my rights stopped where yours started. Okay. You can pick anything you want to talk about that's a human right, but I could not push my rights on you. When you said, hey, Eric, that's enough, or this is far enough, or I'm not going to allow that. That's where my rights end. We don't have that anymore. I have my rights, and by golly, and that's the way our society is I've got them, and by golly, you got to live by them. Mm. And guess what? You got the same right then. But what when we don't see eye to eye on a particular topic? How do we address that? We don't have that in our society. We have the individual rights, the individual liberties, but we don't have anything that sets a guideline for where that stops. So everything is okay.
Yeah.
And then you got people that are just, everybody gets offended and they demand justice right now because you offended me. You need to be fired because you cussed at me at work. You need to lose your driver's license because you exhibited a little bit of road rage going down the road, or you cut me off, or whatever. That's not the way that we should be, and that's not the way society was designed. And in America, it never was that way until. I've seen it. You look back, I can see where it's progressed, but the last 10 or 15 years, it's just gone exponential. It's just going through the roof, all of that stuff. And it's selfishness. It's not worrying about anybody else or even thinking about them, not necessarily worried about them, but I have no concern for another individual. It's what do I want and how quick can I get it? And if you make me mad, by golly, you got to pay.
Yeah.
It goes back to the old days in school when, you'd get in a fight in school and, you tussle it up. Somebody might get a bloody nose. By the end of the day, your best friend's out there playing on the swing set again. Now, if you beat me up at school, by golly, I'm going to ride by your house, or I'm going to come back to school with a gun tomorrow. I'm going to show you that I'm not going to take that mess. That's lack of discipline in our society. So,
yeah, that's a good point. Like everybody in school that I would argue with, once we got in a fight or like a verbal argument, sometimes we see eye to eye. In your opinion, at what point did this ability to debate drop off? That's exactly what you said. There's no arguing. It's just we pick a side and then that's it. So at what point did you see that we couldn't debate each other anymore and actually?
It wasn't a point necessarily. It was a slow transition. It's like every other change that we're enduring in our culture is it starts out slow, and instead of us debating, and if we get to agreement on whoever side that we want, whichever one prevails, okay, well, Mike was right on that or whatever. We don't do that anymore. Or we just agree to disagree. Okay, that's what you believe, and this is what I believe, and let's go on, We don't do that. By golly, you're going to believe what I want to believe. And it's, to me, it's been building in society for a long time. And now we're able to visually see our leaders of our country, whether they're local leaders, from the school board all the way to the president. And by golly, it's if you're not their way, you're wrong. And we're seeing people, just look at the January 6th thing. There's people that's been in jail since January the 6th, 2020, with no legal representation, very little medical care, very little food. A lot of them are in solitary confinement, and they're not allowed a lawyer. If you get arrested today, that's you have the right to an attorney. These people don't even, and that's the way, and people see that, you hear about it, and that's the way our society is morphing. And that's why when you cut me off, I pull out my gun and shoot you through the back of the head in your car, is because you're demanding justice, and it's going to be my way. And it's out there for everybody to see. There is no example of, what's the word I'm looking for? When we both agree.
Compromise.
Mm. Yeah, that doesn't exist in our society anymore.
No, not at all. It's being forced. You have to, like you said, you have to be, there's one segment of people that if you don't believe them, then they'll cancel you, or they'll make up lies about you or extend the truth. You mentioned when it started. I remember when I was little, when we were playing sports, it happened just kind of like one year to the next. But when we lost, we lost.
Right.
We didn't get anything. And then I remember at this point when we lost, but we still got trophies. And I was like, why are we getting a trophy for now? We lost. We lost the entire thing. Why are we getting a trophy? You know what I mean?
The everybody wins thing.
Now, then that, I feel like it happened, like our generation kind of fostered it a lot quicker, but where everyone started getting a trophy and then you didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
Right.
I think people, you need to get your feelings hurt every now and then.
You got to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
When I noticed it later on, and it was in the work area. It was like when I first started working, if you mess up, you're gonna get a talking to, and you may even get fired.
Yeah.
And nowadays, like, you just do like a somewhat of a investigation. You could have done something just blatantly wrong, and it's like there's no fear of getting fired anymore. Like when I used to work when I was like 18, and like if you like run into something with a forklift or something like that, you're fearing for your job. Like, and they don't talk to you sweet, like your supervision wouldn't talk to you sweet. They talk to you like they're your dad or something, like,
right. Yeah.
And so now you have to watch what you say. You can't really reprimand people. It's nice not to have the fear to know that you can make a couple mistakes, but now it's like, you can just blatantly break intolerable rules, and you might not lose your job.
In some way, that's good though.
I like having I want to be able to make a mistake, but
yeah, in some way, there's a lot of people back in the day, I think, that were disrespectful about stuff. Get away with anything. There's no rules. You can kind of talk to people however, right? So I think in doing and trying to rein that in, we went too far. And now it's just hard to hold people accountable because you don't want to hurt their feelings. Where you used to, you could say whatever the hell you want, hurt someone's feelings, and it was probably a good thing because that person never messed up.
Yeah.
But it kind of progressed into this, I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah, but
mentality.
Think about you talking about sports a minute ago, and think about, your football coach when you're playing youth football or maybe even in school and stuff. When you messed up, did that coach treat you with kid gloves? No, he grabbed you by the face mask and yanked you around. Yeah. They may not now.
We saw that on Facebook. A punch in the back of the head. Yeah. Right. Some coaches still do it.
But, getting your feelings hurt, that you can't worry. I mean, I'm not saying you can't worry about hurting feelings, but that's some of that growth or some of that learning that takes place, and that's, like at work, I talk about with the guys coaching and discipline, explaining the difference and stuff like that. And that's exactly what I use as a sports analogy is, if you're the point guard on a basketball team and you're constantly taking a bad shot using the wrong form or whatever, your coach he's going to coach you. He's going to talk you through, here's the right way to do it. This is what we expect and what we need as a team for us to be successful. But if you keep doing that, what happens? You're going to go ride pine.
Yeah.
And that is discipline and that is hurt feelings. But I guarantee you the guard that gets pulled out of the game, the lineman that doesn't block, you pick it. If they don't perform at that level, they get to go sit on the bench and watch it for a minute or longer, And our society doesn't do that. Our children don't get to go ride the pine, if you want to call it that. At work, you brought it up. It's increasingly difficult, and it's driven by very soft and flexible HR policy is what I see in my work environment. And you lose. Another thing that's happened is we have turnover. People want to progress. You want to go get a new job, well, in our particular work environment, that rotates every 2 to 3 years for a lot of people. And you lose consistency and understanding of why things were the way they are. And it's crazy what that can do as far as managing your people. Now that's work related, but family, it's got to be the parent. The parent has to be the parent, not the friend. Yeah. And that's hard for a parent to do because we all want to be liked and loved, but in those difficult times, you got to be the parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for those that you don't know, it's like you're in a leadership role, and I've always saw you as a really good leader. Like you put things in perspective. Like whenever
I'll talk to Rob about your bonus.
Yeah.
Whenever
Checks in the mail.
whenever something goes wrong, you're really good with the analogies. You make it make sense. Like, you messed up, and this is like, what are some of the things you say? I mean, you say like, this is like trying to drive your car without gas, or I don't know. It's just something that makes sense, but it's not like you're just telling them blatantly what they did wrong. You're making it make sense, and then you give people chances, but then you're battling HR at this point where you can't really be the leader that you need to be because you can't say the things you want to say.
It's tough,
or the way you want to say it, and you don't. Things have changed, but
that's probably not just our company. That's probably
no, it's a global deal, and and you go look at the. We talk about ESG metrics. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
That's not a company thing. That's global, and that has a significant impact on investor relations.
Mm-hmm.
Just the fact of those ESG metrics, but those ESG metrics are just forcing softness.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being flexible, but my wife, we had a family, and we delivered 2 kids, and by golly, I was at work, went to work on graveyards and got a call out an hour into the shift, and I took off my 2 days, and mama had the baby, and we came home with the kid, and when we came home with the kid, I went back to work. We're given 16 weeks for a dad. If I'd have been home for 16 weeks when my wife had either one of our kids, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah.
Y'all could come visit me in the cemetery somewhere. My wife wouldn't gonna put up with that crap.
Is there a good side to that though? That's got to be.
I like it. Makes me want to have a kid.
That's got to be somewhat good, right? I mean, letting the dad help more at the house.
Sure, there's benefit to that, but no doubt. They call it, they refer to it as bonding time, but 16 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's a very long time.
The first thing is if you send me home for 16 weeks, it's going to be hard for me to come get me back on Monday of week 17.
Right.
And then when I do come back, I'm not geared up. It's like our philosophy, you used to see at the beginning of the year, we would have that, okay, everybody's been off with the holidays. We got to
energize,
ramp back up into it, and I used to joke with the guys all the time, okay, man, this is Monday. You cannot expect anything out of me on Monday because I'm coming in off of a weekend.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesday, you're going to get a little bit out of me. Wednesday, get out of my way because I'm going to work it off. Tuesday, I got to ramp down so I'm in shape, start ramping. Thursday to Friday, I'm ramping down progressively. So Wednesday's the day you're going to get it out of me. What happened to, we talk generational difference. What happened to, by golly, I got to go take care of the family. I got to go earn a living. My employer needs me to be at work. And if I'm on the farm, I'm my employer. That field of hay that's going to get cut doesn't get 16 weeks off because I got a kid coming.
Yeah, I compare you to my dad. You and Joey, the older folks at the plant. Y'all are about the same age as my dad. My dad can work anyone to the fucking dirt, just all day, every day. And that rubbed off. I felt like it rubbed off on us right. Growing up, and we could see that and the benefit of that. And I feel like that's helped me in my career. But we don't have that anymore. It's almost now it's like this work-life balance, which is good. I can see both sides of it. Like
right.
we need to have this mental clarity and this mental break. But at some point, it's kind of fostering this environment to not perform almost. You can just be mediocre,
Right. It does do that. It drives that, and I look back, I don't know if y'all have looked at it or not, but, I studied after World War II. We went over to Japan and just decimated that country. And then we spent ungodly amounts of money rebuilding them. Well, Japan's culture came back after World War II, and it was like they were workaholics. And if my boss was not satisfied with my work at the end of the day today, I go to the roof and jump off, And so I saw that developing kind of early in my leadership career, is by golly, and I'm that way now a little bit, but by golly, I was responsible for whatever happened in the plant when I was there on the job with my crew and all of that. And as you grow, you go from a shift where you're responsible from one shift maybe to now you're a leader over the whole plant, and you got the shift guys and their leaders reporting to you and stuff. And now you got responsibility for the whole plant. you know, and so that demands that you give up some of your personal time. And so that work-life balance, it was suffering, you know, quite a bit. But that really hasn't improved. Because if you're a leader in the plant today, and I would venture to guess that it's in any business throughout the world today, we just happen to be dealing with plant life. But, you know, the expectation is you're available 24/7.
Yeah.
When you're on vacation, you're available. There is no, I'm going to Mexico, turning off my phone. Now, I can send out all the stuff, but somebody's going to call me, you know. And I got 2 or 3 guys, I joke about that a little bit every once in a while. I got 2 or 3 guys, it don't matter. Time of day, where I'm at, what I'm doing, email in bold letters. I am not going to have phone. You know, they're going to call me. They are going to call me. And it's usually about something about, well, hey, you know, I'm being facetious, but I don't have my hard hat liner. Can I get a new one? You know, I mean, it's usually so, or
hey,
it's
the door's locked.
Right. You know, it's like, you know, some issues, it's like payroll goes in Monday after next, but I'm calling you about how to put my time in today. Can't you wait till I'm back in the plant to ask me that question, you know? Yeah. And again, that goes to that anxiety, and I need an immediate release from that, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't remember what trail we were going down here, but yeah, it's, you know, it's hard to get away. So work-life balance is a good thing. It does force some flexibility, but you're right. It kind of fosters that culture of, well, I just don't feel balanced right now. We see this every day. Yeah. I'm not balanced, so, you know, I'm going to leave or I'm going to go out for 2 hours in the middle of the day. And then when people need you, you're not there. Yeah. And being available by the phone is not always a viable method of contact.
No, agreed.
That's the bad part. There's all these little systems that get put in place. They get taken advantage of by the people that take advantage of the system before. You know, there's always somebody that's going to find the loopholes and little nicks and crannies. But we also talk about having to know this knowledge base, you know, welding, all this stuff. This world has evolved so much technologically that we don't have the same jobs we used to. You know, there still are some of those things, but, you know, y'all mentioned you can't work on a car anymore. These kids that code, they can technically work on cars now. Yeah. Because that's what working on cars is now with these new vehicles. So it's like at the time when everything was very mechanical, you had to learn how to work on a car mechanically. Yeah. Now you got a Tesla. It's not going to be the same looking guy working on your car. Yeah. He's going to be hooked up on a laptop.
But if you're driving that Tesla, okay,
I know where you're going.
And the laptop guy, he can do all the programming on it. But who's the guy that built the battery? Who's the guy that machined all the U-joints and all the flex joints and the suspension and all that? That you need that craft labor and that's one thing that we've moved away from. Everybody went to school and got a 4-year degree. Yeah. And everybody's got, you know, I got a master's of basket weaving or something like that. Okay. You know, or art appreciation or something like that. And you see it,
That's what Jon got.
Art appreciation.
No, the basket.
Oh, okay. That's what I'm going for.
I want Christmas. I'm going to buy a couple of baskets from
Christmas.
Keep me in mind.
Right. You know, but you see that, like, I can remember probably as far out as 7 or 8, maybe 10 years ago, there was a big shortage of engineers available for in industry. We don't see it so much now because we rely on contract labor, so it's not in-house with us. But I grew up in an era out there where we had our own boilermakers, pipe fitter, welders, machinists, and all that. And by golly, if you needed a new pencil sharpener, they'd build you one by tomorrow morning. You know, they could build all that. And we went way hard towards academic degrees, and we went away from that technical hands-on kind of education. Yeah. And now you see the demand. You go look, and people are begging for, you name it, a plumber, a carpenter, you know, things like that. Part of that is that in America we got real soft, and a lot of people don't want to work like that. You know, and at the risk of offending somebody, that's why you see, you go look at a house building crew. They're all Hispanic. Those guys will work. You know, they know what hard work is. They grew up doing it. They probably started framing houses when they were 14 or 15 with their old man, And what I've noticed is you look at a lot of those guys, they start out working hard for somebody else, and it's not long they got their own fence building company or their own framing company or whatever.
Making a lot of money.
Big money.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing about crafts now is if you're willing to go do that work, it's hard work. It's not coming in sitting behind a desk. But I look back and wish at times where I'd have never got behind a desk because now I'm old and fat and lazy and I want everything to happen at the desk. And that's what's happening with our kids today growing up, probably in y'all's generation a little bit, playing video games. And by golly, they could, there goes the dragon's head, you know, with the, and we see that in our operators. They want to move the joystick to get everything ready to load. They want to push a button, you know, and there's always looking for a shortcut around. But our culture, not our culture, but our society needs those support roles that make things happen, that build things, that fix things. Look at the price, and I do this pretty regular, you know. I know what my truck is worth that I drive every day. I go look. The first truck I ever had was a 1972 Chevrolet with a 350 motor and a turbo 400 transmission.
Size 45.
yeah. But you know, I mean, trucks weren't worth what they are today. They were all mechanical. But you know, I got it when I was 16 years old, and I could do the minor stuff on it, and I learned to do more on it. But a truck that I paid $600 for when I was 16, brand new, it cost about $3,400. $35,000 to $45,000 now for one that looks like. Now, granted, somebody's put a lot of time and effort in it, but that's the guy that can build things and make things happen. And we talk about new trucks, but you know, if you ever go look at it, there's a tremendous shift in agriculture from people using new, current equipment in the field because you can't work on it.
Yeah. And
they're going back and trying like crazy to buy old equipment that can be rebuilt. You can get parts for it. We can rebuild it. We can fix it. And a lot of that's driven by in any industry. We're kind of buffered from it, but in ag, when you're out there, I'm going to use hay cutting because I do a little bit of that. So when you're out there running that hay cutter in the field and it breaks down, you lose a gear in the cutter bar or something like that, you ain't putting grass on the ground.
Mm-mm.
But you got to beat that rain that's coming in 2 or 3 days or a week. You know, I mean, you got to find that. You got to make hay when the sun shines, and when it rains, if it rains on what you cut, it's ruined. And that applies for all ag, whether you're putting in row crops or whatever else. So your equipment has to be reliable. And farmers grew up, by golly, when we finished our last harvest in the fall, we put our equipment in the barn, and we went in the barn, and that was our full-time job, was working on that equipment, getting it ready for next April or March to be ready to go in the field. And when you go out there, and the thing about it then is you be going through the field and you hear a little clankety clank or whatever, and I'm losing.
I know what that is.
Yeah. Well, you recognize the sound. You were able to narrow it down. Now it's that proc switch on the side of a machine that when it's normal operation, you get to a certain point, it stops a component from turning and lets the machine do the next cycle. Well, if that proc switch is bad and it doesn't stop it, you know, you may wrap up your pickup reel with, 100 feet of hay net. And then it's plugged up, and you got to crawl under there for 2 or 3 hours with a knife and cut it out, and it's all tight. But in the old days, they didn't, but then you got to figure out what's causing that. And then not only once you narrow it down, you don't just change out the proc switch and go. It's got to be adjusted. It's got to be timed, all this stuff. Where in the old days it was timed and it was adjusted, but it was mechanical, and when it was set, it went, and you didn't have to worry about getting a scratch on an eye somewhere and shutting you down.
I've been reading on that actually. There's a bill, like the right to repair or something, that they're pushing because they have to take it into the manufacturer to get it fixed. But that applies with not just ag. I know ag is pushing it, but even cell phones, like repairing cell phones or any kind of electronic devices.
Right.
It's to the point where we have to take it into Apple or Samsung to get it fixed. And I've been seeing the ag industry push. I forget what it's being dubbed as, but it's like right to repair.
Right to repair. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Do you think that's because people try to repair it and make it worse, and then bring it in, and they've got a mess to deal with?
You have to have specific. You have to have like the manufacturer's tools to fix it.
But do you think that's part of it? Like you like you try to fix your tractor and you really do a number on it, and it's worse than it ever started to be.
No, because I can't even figure out what to go work on. You know, it's not like in the old days where if I started burning a little oil, I knew the smoke, I knew I had to tear my engine apart and put rings on the pistons or a valve job or something like that. I'm going through the field or whatever, and it just shuts down. Or it happens on cars. You're just driving down the highway and it'll shut down. You know, and the technology nowadays forces you to go to the dealer because so many dealers. It's like my truck. I changed out headlights on my truck, and the kids gave me some halogen projector headlights for my truck. Cool looking. I mean, I lost 20 years when I put them in.
I thought you looked younger pulling up.
I am. But anyway, I put them on my truck, and all of a sudden I start getting all these alarms. Headlight bulb out. Well, I turn them on, and I go look, and it's lit, but I've got the alarm on my dash. Well, it turns out, I find out that of course, a Ram truck is not necessarily a Dodge anymore. You know, Fiat Chrysler bought them out, Daimler, Mercedes, they all bought them out. Well, Fiat Chrysler came out with a proprietary program that they put in their vehicles. And it's not just Ram trucks, but that's one of them. And so you got to go in and tell every function. If I put LED bulbs if I just change the bulb, I've got to go into the program and on the body computer on that truck and tell it, I now have LED bulbs, not incandescent or halogen or whatever, because it's got less of an amp draw, less ohms of resistance. The computer's looking for that. Mm. That old 72 Chevrolet I was telling you about, I went to O'Reilly and I bought a tail light for it, or a headlight, or a blinker bulb, or whatever. I could
tape a flashlight on it.
You got it, man. And I put it in and it worked. I didn't have to worry about that. But your average Joe that's not willing to do that research, he goes to the dealer and he's paying probably on average $120 an hour to have them do that programming.
Yeah. There's a benefit though. I guess I'm the devil's advocate here, but like if you plug in some high amperage drawing lights, then you could blow fuses and just never know what's going on. But now the computer tells you that you don't have the right rated lights on your truck. You think
it's actually putting more efficient lighting on it though.
Yeah, right, well, that's a weird thing, but it's basically just saying, hey, this isn't the amp draw I'm used to or something, and so it throws some kind of warning or fault.
Right.
You struck a nerve with me because I'm dealing with this too. I got an iMac over here that it's not terribly old, but it's 2013, and I was updating it for school, and it's not eligible for the latest update.
Right.
So I can't update anything right now. And there's some programs I can't download because I need the latest version. So that's the instance of a company making you buy their next product. And I mean, Apple's known for it. I mean, that's in their business model. That's buy the next phone. I get it because some of the phones have different things, but they still work as a phone. I don't know, like probably facial recognition's like not available on like, I don't know, the iPhone 8 or something, and they need that technology built in, and it's not enough that a firmware can do. But man, I want to still be able to use this computer, but it's going to be obsolete soon. And it's called obsoletism, I think, is the term.
It's built-in obsolescence.
Obsolescence.
They build it that way, knowing that that's how they're going to sell it in the future. Now, and that's a mental thing because by golly, I can't have a phone that doesn't have facial recognition.
Yeah, I need the latest phone.
Before when I had to pull up and text Mike and I had to type in all the now I can just say, "Hey Siri, text Mike D."
You're probably texting me right now.
I probably am. But I mean, and it's we're conditioned to think we've got to have the newest and the greatest. Did y'all grow up with a rotary phone on the wall in your kitchen when you?
Not rotary, but it was on the wall and it had the cord.
Right.
Yeah, we had the cord, but the push buttons.
Yeah, see, well.
It was retro for us.
That was a big technological change of the day.
The push buttons?
Right.
Oh, man, that's high-tech shit there.
Yeah. You probably worked in that industry, huh? You were plugging in the cords.
No, I wasn't quite old enough. I was out mowing yards. Yeah.
I thought it was pretty high-tech when call waiting came around.
Right.
When we make calls.
And then caller ID.
Yeah, caller ID came. I was just mind blown. How are they doing this?
Remember pagers? You were like, it was on you, and like, how are you getting? How's that beeping right now?
Call me.
Yeah.
And that caller ID took away all screwed me growing up because by golly, if Mike made me mad, I'd dial up Mike's phone on my rotary dial him up, and then hang up or whatever. Yeah, prank calling, and you didn't know who it was. And now if I dial you up,
you can't prank call. Star 67.
Right.
I think you have to.
Or you could say, yeah, I missed your call, and then it came out like, well, I left you a message. What happened?
Right.
They're holding us accountable
Right.
in that aspect, aren't they?
Yeah.
Sure.
You mentioned everyone's got a degree. We've talked about that before too.
A little too much.
It's almost getting watered down. The degrees are watered down.
Yeah.
In one of my engineering classes, it kind of mentioned that in the books that everyone has an engineering degree. Back in the day, if someone was an engineer, it was kind of a big deal. Like that
in America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, this guy knows what he's doing. He's an engineer. But now anyone can get an engineering. Everyone has an engineering degree.
Right.
And it's almost shameful. When I was growing up, it was you didn't want to do. The society was kind of downplaying being a plumber or an HVAC technician. You need to go to school. That way you don't have to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know, what I mean? we were conditioned.
Now you got to go to school to do that kind of stuff.
That's the flip side. Is they're making education for normal things now. You can't fly a drone. You need a degree now. They find it and they're like, all right, let's capitalize on this and make a training program that you got to get certified on.
But that's also our government finding a way to get in our pocketbook.
Yeah.
You know, you got to go get an education, then you got to have a license. So now you got to go apply to the state of Texas to have a license to be a drone pilot or a plumber or a beautician. You know, and I was thinking about this before I came up here is that, you know, when America started out, we had roads. Were they like we drive on today? No, but we had roads. We had schoolhouses. We had churches. We didn't pay taxes. You know, it wasn't until the early 1900s that we had an income tax that now we're funding all this government stuff. Now, if you really sit down and look at it, to drive your car, you got to pay tax when you buy it. You got to pay annual tax to put it on the road called registration. You got to have it safety inspected. You know, that's some of the we don't look at it, and that's that slow conditioning to change in our culture is that it just happens a little bite at a time, and the next thing you know. But if you really run the numbers, you know, and this hit me because I was arguing with Saeed when he first got there about Canada and all this, you know, how their tax rates are.
Yeah, Canada's amazing.
Yeah, they're great, but they pay 50% income tax.
Yeah.
You know? But if you really look at all, you know, you go to buy food, you pay tax on the food, you pay tax to buy a car, you buy a house. You know, you may not pay a tax on the price to buy the house, sales tax, but every year you pay property tax, and when you quit, they take your house.
Yeah.
You know. And that's how things have morphed. You know, that's how we support our government, and the government does a lot of good, but our founders never intended for our government to run our lives to that point.
It's bad because the people that are in the government, they never get out. I think that's a major problem.
That's on us.
What do you mean?
We can't put that on them. We got the power of the vote, brother. I can't say because Nancy Pelosi's been in Congress for 45 years that's the problem. The problem is the people in California evidently support what she's doing, or they have no idea, but it's name recognition, and they keep voting her in. You see all this stuff that says term limits. We need term limits. You know, Congress needs to pay. Congress is not ever going to pass a law for term limits because they're saying, I want to give up my job.
It sounds good, though.
It does sound good, but we got term limits right now. By God, just don't go vote for the guy that's in office, and he's out. And when they don't do what you want them to do, we got to do that. But people got to get informed and go vote for the candidate that supports their values, and that doesn't happen.
I feel like we're voting less. Voting is not as a big thing as it was back in the day.
It's coming back.
You think so?
I think so. I think you're going to be surprised in this upcoming off-cycle election at the voter turnout. The problem is that people don't have confidence in the viability of that vote. That hurt us, and it's been building, but 2020 hurt us as far as I feel like when I make my vote, it's going to be my vote, and that's the way it's going to stay through the whole system.
Yeah,
that's been eroded very badly, but I do think that, and it's just it's proven. There's data out there to show it that liberals don't turn on each other. Liberal voters are going to go vote. Conservative voters are going to say, well, I really don't have a feeling about this particular election. I'm not going to vote. No, go get informed. Understand the candidates and go vote, even if it is for dog catcher. Go understand it because you want the dog catcher that supports your values. And I think that there's been a real awakening amongst conservatives and I think it's going to be evident. And we're in early voting right now, and I think that it's going to be evident based on turnout that people have had enough of the government running their lives and telling them what to do and not supporting them, that they're gonna have their say.
I'm such a skeptic, and I know this is very controversial, but I don't have a lot of faith in the voting system. I just really think there's some fuckery in it.
There is.
I don't want to get loose on this thing, but I just don't trust that it's only our votes and it's not getting skewed. It's all digital now. If you watch like movies and stuff too, they're like, I got this program that, you can't see that we're adding votes or things like that. Like it's normally when, I don't know, it's kind of dumb to say, but normally when you see things in movies, it's like a real thing. Like it's happening in the background, but it's all just non-fictional when we're watching it. But I just don't believe that there's no influence on voting. Like the actually tallying up the votes and seeing. I know there was like a lot of controversy with Trump, but I thought in California they actually found that.
They found it in Texas.
Yeah, they found that it actually.
Everywhere they looked, that they did this forensic auditing, they found the fuckery in the damn election system. They did find it.
And it's proven.
It is proven. The problem is that the liberals are running so much of the show, they're not going to do anything with it.
It's that accountability thing, I guess.
It is. And so that's why conservatives have to step up and go vote our conscience, vote for our values, and change those roles. I mean, if you just listen to TV, and I don't watch much on mainstream news anymore because it's always the same thing, and there's so much data out there to support that the news media is lying to us or partially telling the story. They're not ever... it's not like the old days where you watch the news, the guy talked about the Vietnam War, and you made your own mind up, right, wrong, or indifferent. It's not that way anyway. The news media has an agenda, and they're driving it. But, we can go way out there, but, on the non-American influence in our elections. And, if you want to spend the next 2 weeks on the computer, go Google George Soros and see what he's doing and how much money he's contributing to drive the progressive left agenda. And what it's all about is making the average Joe like us sitting in this room. We don't get to choose what we want. We get to have what's available for us to have. While the elite get to go sit in a big dining hall and they have their steak and lobster, we're lucky if we got some bread to go with our bologna and maybe a little cheese. We got water, but, the days are going. Go to the store now. I mean, I experience a little bit, but I listen to people talk, and you go in the meat and the bread aisles, and there's nothing there. I went into Buc-ee's this morning to get a drink. Half the drink selections are not in the cooler. Why is that? A year ago, I could go in there and I could pick out 10 different flavors of the same drink if I wanted to. Why is it that way? Well, it is that drive to condition us to get used to dealing with less and having less rights or less freedoms or less individual control on our life, and they're conditioning us to accept what's available.
Doesn't it teeter-totter though? I feel like it's bad to have one position always in power, even the Republicans, because then everyone's going to get crooked at some point. Or going to get bought off. So haven't you seen it teeter-totter? It goes left for a couple of years, and then America gets, scared and like, fuck, we need to go back right. So then Republicans get voted in. Doesn't it always kind of just balance itself out eventually?
I would say no. In my lifetime, it's continually gotten worse.
Really?
Because, I can remember a time when I was young that Texas was a Democrat state, and it was a huge deal when Republicans... Now, we're talking political party here, not necessarily ideology. When Republicans took over the state legislature, it was like crazy. Texas was Democrat up until then. But you go back and you look at John F. Kennedy and the Democrat era prior to the 60s. The Democratic Party at that time was all about the worker, all about rights. They did have some of the touchy-feely, we're going to take care of other things, but it was in the Lyndon Johnson era where they really started swinging more, a little bit progressive. And now it used to be like you had the two political parties, and there was just like you're saying, there was this and this, and you had some of the liberals or Democrats they're liberal now, but you had Democrats and Republicans, but you had a big conflagration in the middle of people that were moderate.
Right.
You don't have moderates anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You either have extreme progressive
AOC,
right, or you have extreme conservatism.
Right.
And you got to be careful, because extreme conservatism is just as bad as extreme liberalism.
Yeah.
That it's that middle, that
really
keeps that teeter-totter happening, that keeps us
divided. That's the only way to stay divided. If we're both extreme one way, because we can't meet in the middle if it's so far off.
Right.
So I think it's by design, and it has to be that way to keep the two parties separate.
You're right, and that's the deal. I talked about George Soros, and he's not the only one. It's a global deal, but they want people divided, because if we're fighting amongst each other about, you got long hair, I got short hair, you don't have a beard, whatever, we're fighting about that, and everybody's got to be that way, then we can't ever focus on what's happening to us.
What's going on in the background.
That's right. And it's, the biggest, most visible thing that I think we've seen, and it's kind of been that way, is racial. Okay. But I can remember growing up in school, race didn't mean anything to me, and I don't think it meant anything to any black kid or Hispanic kid that hung around with me. We were friends together. We played football together. We ate lunch together. If I needed a dime for lunch money, they'd help me out, and if they needed it, I helped them. That didn't matter. But our culture, a certain aspect of our culture, and I think it's been driven for division. And nowadays, if you go look at Alan West a little bit, and he's running for governor, go watch him, see what he's about. But go look at Candace Owens, look at David J. Harris Jr., go look at him and watch his podcasts and stuff. And they're black, and they're really calling out black people. But take the black out of it, and just take the race out of it, and listen to their points of view and what they see. And I don't care what race you are. You can say, we do that, or we don't do that, or we take advantage of it, or we don't take advantage of it, or we're being taken advantage of. And we got to get to where we're all people. And I heard it, and I agree with this: is Hispanic, white, black, Asian. That's not a race. That's ethnicity. We're the human race. We're all the same. We should all be treated the same. Get rid of equality and equity, because God didn't design us all, and throughout history we weren't designed that way, where we're all equal. John's got a specific set of talents that I don't have. He can do a lot of things that I can't do. Is it fair for me to say that I should be able to compete on an equal level in baseball, football? You go take it. You got a skill set. You're better at that. It's up to me to find my skill set. There's opportunity there. Same thing for you. We're all three. We got similar views on some things, but then there are talents. But like, I couldn't skateboard to save my life, and you grew up doing it like it was, you were born with it. Snowboarding, whatever. I water skied like crazy. I was a damn water bug. Maybe you can't. Yeah.
I hadn't heard that in a while.
Yeah, but there's nothing that says that I got to be equal to you, that I have to have the same kind of house, the same kind of salary, all of that,
Equal opportunity doesn't have to mean equal outcome, right?
Correct.
I think we can agree that everyone should have the same opportunity as one another. I think we all do, right?
Yeah.
To some extent.
Right.
But I think where some of this agenda is going is that we all deserve the same thing.
Well, and it's going to, you and I should both have the same opportunity to have a good job and to maximize our income and live a life of liberty that we both want. That doesn't mean that I got to have the same opportunity for the same job you're looking at.
Right.
And I can remember in one of our leadership meetings where it came up where they started telling us that HR is requiring that you got to have gender equity and racial equity on your hiring teams and in your candidate pool. Okay. And we happened to work for a second level super leader at that time that was very focused on that and used every opportunity to drive that agenda. And me being the, soft spoken, don't just hold myself in.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I could see it.
I couldn't hold it. And I said, Why the hell aren't we looking for the best candidate? Quit seeing color, quit seeing gender. You know, by golly, in today's world, I can identify as a French poodle if I want to. You know, quit looking at that and just hire the best candidate for that role.
Yeah.
Okay. But, you know, and recently we posted a job and hired for it, and we posted internally. And because we only got 2 females to apply internally, we had the racial thing covered because one was white and one was black. That was covered. But we didn't have a man. We had to go post that job external to the company and then tell that guy no. Because he just did not meet the qualifications. He was nowhere close. But we had to do that to check the box.
We were talking about that last episode. I actually, we had a guest on last year, and he's of a different ethnicity, and I was telling Mike how it's harder today, right now, in today's world, to be white. It's almost a bad thing to be white. And I said, as a Hispanic, and I'm not just talking about our company, I'm talking about every company, that this forced inclusion is almost, in a way, kind of reverse racism, in my opinion. I don't think it's authentic to force us to be inclusive. We should all always be inclusive. That's the way it should be. But I feel like when you force it,
right,
it loses the real authenticity of just hiring somebody because they're good. Right. Because they're a good fit for that position, or bringing someone on to an interview team because you value that opinion of that person, not because you value the opinion of the person because of their skin color. You know. So
yeah, you are. I like what you said, and I agree with you. But we don't value the opinion. No, you are now on the team because you're Hispanic, or this guy's on, or woman is on there because she's black. We don't care about. We may not respect their opinion at all. But it's a checkbox. Yeah. And this is a deal. I have this conversation with somebody away from work really often, and if you don't pay attention to it, you would never kind of notice it, I don't guess. But we're going through racial equality, and that everything should reflect general society. Okay, so in America, about 50% of the population is white. 13% is black, and the rest are Hispanic, and not all the rest of them, but Hispanics are right there with whites, and that fluctuates a little bit.
We're about to take it over.
Y'all about to get it.
We're about to take over.
I'm telling you. Yeah. But so, yeah, you're right. But so the conversation that I had with this individual one day, and I had never thought about it till they put it this way, and it's like the NFL, and this was several years ago, the NFL was on a particular jaunt about we don't have enough black head coaches in the NFL. We need to target black head coaches. So you started seeing them grow. Okay? Nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of good black guys that they know the sport. They can coach it. Why not give them the opportunity? But this guy presented it to me. He says, look on the field. How many of those players are white? How many are Hispanic? I'm going to wear this mic out.
Just beat the crap out of them.
How many of them are black? Well, when you look in professional sports today, if they had to operate by the same guidelines that we have to operate on our interview teams or our candidate pool, 52% of every NFL team, NBA team, you name it, would be white. And I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying if you're going to use that statistic, apply it everywhere. Mm-hmm. Or just let the best basketball player go out there and play ball.
Yeah. See, those values in sports are still the same values that we used to have. Is like the best person for the job, best person. They would not dare, put me as a guy out in football. The teams will go to shit, so they don't do that. They go to the hospital and make sure their heart is a certain size and that they're not. It's not going to put. It's an investment. Like
it's following the science.
This person has to be at a good athletic level for them to invest in them. So they're not going to do the same thing they do at a corporate level. I never thought about it that way.
Right. But they'll also take that pro ball player, basketball, baseball, whatever. He goes out, he beats women, he shoots up things, he does drugs and all that. They're going to keep paying him that millions of dollars a contract because guess what? He's the best player on their team in that position, and they're going to play him. And there's no cultural or societal aspect of it. It's all about money now. and he can come to the game and play the game, you know. But look at some of the players recently that have gone through controversy and stuff like that, you know. And I see it occasionally starting to pop up and cost some of them. But yeah, we don't play by that rule in general industry and you know, work environment or society. It's just crazy.
That's like celebrities in sports. Celebrities and athletes, no matter what ethnicity they are, they're kind of get away with murder, literally,
because they make money.
They make money. That's a whole other thing that needs to be addressed, because, you know, like, there's people that killed people and they're still running, you know, running around here famous.
Right.
People do, you know, the whole Chris Brown thing. It's like he's back to being popular. It's funny what we let go after a while. Time just makes everything kind of go away.
And that propagates what we were talking about 22 hours ago when we started this podcast about accountability and self-discipline. When I watch a guy go out there and catch footballs on the football field, especially if I'm a teenager, I'm developing, and that guy, you know, I just read where he, you know, he ran over and killed a family in a car because he was drunk after a party one night, but he's out there playing ball, making, you know, $900,000 for playing this game today. Why do I need to be accountable? You know, and that's just one instance of where that supports that culture that we're talking about.
I think, though, we already talked about this, but I think there's some companies that are corrupt and you need the forced diversity. I think we think of it this way because I think our company is very diverse, and like by design, we're going to pick the best candidate.
So a couple of years ago, all this diversity stuff started focusing. You know, we saw it coming. We were dealing with it. And again, in that same leadership team I was referencing a while ago, there was a whole lot of focus on the female population in our industry, even in our jobs. I'm talking about the base level, entry level job in the company is grossly misunderrepresented. We need to hire more females. Okay. And you know, we kept hearing this, well, we're light on females. We're light on females. And, you know, I, for one, I ran the data on the group that reported to me at the time. And I mean, I had, you know, on female to male population statistic it didn't jive. I had less females than males, but racial equality was pretty much right there. But when the real evidence came out, when you see the real data, it was from level 10 to level 14 in our company is where the huge gap was in females. Mm-hmm. Didn't have anything to do with the levels that we're at or even the entry level people coming in.
So that means a higher level for those of you who don't know that number.
Right. Yeah, the upper levels of the organization were vastly underrepresented by females. And then, you know, one question I posed is okay, for the jobs that I hire for, how many women want to do that kind of work? It's work that needs to be done. The opportunity is there. My thoughts are, if a woman's okay with doing that kind of work, she'll apply for it. It pays good money, but, you know, not every woman wants to do that or is cut out to do that kind of work. There's a lot of men that aren't cut out to do that kind of work. It's not hard. They just don't want to do it.
Yeah, long hours, shift work, and that's a hard life.
It's outside, you know, it's a little bit physical, but it's not bad, you know. But it's just not what some people. It's just not what some want to do. And when you go saying that I've got to match general society statistics in my job disbursement, then basically, you know, we got to post a rec to hire. You can only apply if you're female. And, you know, we're going to take 50% whites and 13% blacks and 40% Hispanic or whatever the breakdown is. And if you're not that, we're going to cull you. Well, how do you make that decision? Because now it's not equal opportunity. It's the checkbox. It's a quota.
Yeah. I don't know.
It becomes not equal opportunity.
That's what I'm getting at.
Because the inverse of that is you're not being equal to the person that wants the job. But because you probably, I assume a lot of times you can't get the candidate pool that you need. And then you got someone that really wants it but doesn't check the box. And then they just can't get the job because... Yeah. You know, and then that's not equal opportunity.
Yeah. I genuinely feel that I don't know how to say this PC, but I genuinely feel that there's organizations out in America to keep driving the race card, to keep it alive. Otherwise, they don't make money, and otherwise they don't pressure corporations like ours to do certain things.
Right.
Instead of focusing on a race, why can't we just, I guess, like we've said tons of times on here, just focus on, can this person perform the position?
Right.
Are they the best fit?
Right.
That's what we should focus on. Not on when you drive race, you're just keeping that alive.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I may sound like a, I don't know, Nazi conservative or something, but I've grown up in Texas, the most conservative state in America, and I've never once, and maybe I'm dumb and I didn't realize it, but I didn't experience any type of racism ever.
I agree, and I'm the same thing. What am I? Probably 15 years older than you, maybe. 115.
Maybe
15.
But that's right. And I've thought about that a lot in my years growing up, and so, but I do agree with you that there's a certain segment. The most visible is in the black culture. Quanell X, Al Sharpton, used to be Jesse Jackson. There are some Hispanics. You don't see any whites that are political activists or community activists.
Can we join a white group? Is there a white group for white people?
You can, but the liberals are going to say that's KKK.
I don't know. I don't know of any. I guess the point I'm trying to make. I don't think there's a white, like in most companies. There's a Hispanic, group or a women's group. Is there a white group?
No.
You don't talk about that.
LULAC.
What?
NAACP. There is no National Association of the White People.
No.
It's not there.
It's not a good time. Because like we were talking about, is like there wouldn't be.
Well, because if you're white, you owe everybody.
Yeah.
That's the reality in our culture today is if you're a white guy, I never owned a slave, but because I'm white, I owe reparations for slaves. Yeah. I don't know but never known a black person that was ever a slave. You know what's also ironic too? Me and Mike always joke about this. There's always a big push for other, at least media wise, there's a big push for the African American community, for the Asian community. Now you see a lot more news around it. What about the Hispanic? It's like people forgot about the Hispanic community. The Hispanic communities only come up when we talk about the border. Correct.
The Hispanics coming across, but I don't ever hear a big push for the Hispanic community. It's like the Hispanic. Okay, yeah, you just forgot about them.
I agree with you, and that is true. And I've seen instances throughout my lifetime, and I can't remember exactly in Houston, but every once in a while you'd see the guy that was head of the LULAC for Harris County would step up and say things. Recently, like within the last year and a half or so, I saw I think it originated in like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Houston, starting to go advocate for Hispanic opportunity in businesses. But, a part of that, I think, might be some of that culture where the Hispanic people we just want to go work. We want to earn. We want to live. We want to do our thing.
We don't have time for all that.
And so this is my viewpoint. It's just an observation of mine. But, Hispanic people, they don't want to go stir a bunch of crap up. It's like, we're going to go work. We're going to adapt to our circumstance. So go look on the border. Go look anywhere. Anything you see, Hispanics adapt to whatever they're faced with at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. You look at the drug cartels, that are. You talk about an entrepreneurial organization. They find a way to make money out of anything, But, and when I say Hispanic, I'm not talking about Mexicans. I'm talking about there's Hispanics from Cuba, a lot of different countries and stuff that want to be here, and the opportunity's here, and you can't fault somebody for wanting that opportunity. And they're, if you go talk, my observation is if you go listen to Hispanics that followed the process and came into the United States, they're probably more conservative than I am.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And know more about America too.
And what it takes to get here. you know, but all the people that are coming across the border, and they're not all, and that's another thing. We tend to think about everybody coming across the southern border of Texas is Hispanic, and we generalize that to be Mexico. But it's not. They're coming down from Central America, South America. Yeah. But one thing you don't hear a lot about, unless you pay attention to the right channels, is how many of them are Middle Eastern, how many of them are Russian, And if you go look at the right places, you'll start seeing that, wow, a lot of these people coming across the border they're Middle Eastern. They are men in their late teens to about 30 years old, and you know nothing about them. Yeah. And are we populating America with potential terrorists? I'm not going to say that. It's a concern, but because I think there's a lot of people that would just love to get over here to have the freedom and the opportunity that this country has allowed to everyone that's been born here. Yeah. But it took a lot of work to get there, and it's the people that follow the right way that want to protect that. And
you mentioned there's a lot of Hispanic. The Hispanic community, a large population of them are conservative. I've been following some elections down south, and there's a lot of Hispanic women that are are running for Senate or Congress. They're right. Super uber conservative,
right?
Almost a little too much,
right?
But it's interesting to see that even on the southern tip of Texas.
Right. And so, like in the 2020 election, Trump pulled the highest number of Hispanic voters from the border of any Republican ever in history. I do remember that. I don't remember the exact numbers. Another thing that you said that I kind of wonder about is you talk about Hispanic women. So we know the matriarchal effect of Hispanic women, the mom. Hispanic men, I'm out working. I got to provide. They're working hard. They're trying to provide. Do they have that opportunity to vote? Not the opportunity. Do they take the opportunity?
Yeah.
Do they go vote? Where Hispanic women are raising their kids, they're the ones when dad comes home with the money, mom's the one that has to go make that money, make groceries and clothes and all this good stuff. Dad wants, cold beer in the refrigerator and something to eat. And mama when he's got a chance,
Yeah.
But let me go work, and now mama's got to handle all the business. And I think that's why you're seeing, some Hispanic women stepping up, and they are conservative because they know what juggling that is all about. They know what it takes to live that. And again, that's it's what I said earlier about Hispanics adapting to their environment.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're talking, a lot of this is like first generation. Second generation is Americanized, basically. Do y'all agree on that?
Not completely.
You think second generation will carry on all the values and things of their parents, but it's not like, so if they came over from Mexico or wherever they came from, they kind of have to lay low. I mean, they really don't have any paperwork to be here.
If they came
illegally, yeah. Okay. So they're not gonna cause a ruckus or anything, and they don't have the ability to vote or anything.
The illegal guys want to fly under the radar.
Yeah, for sure.
They want to live and just fly under the radar.
So second generation, they're going to be born here. They're going to be legal here. They're going to be able to, vote and do all that stuff. So I think that what we're talking about is first generation, like the culture of first generation. Second, they're going to college, they're doing this, and maybe this is the lady that's running for, what was it, Congress?
Senate, I think. Sure.
So she's probably not first generation.
Eva Guzman?
No, I know who you're talking about, but there's one down south. I forget what she's running for, but she's gaining a lot of popularity.
Yeah.
For her beliefs.
Yeah.
Because typically the first generation, they're going to earn money so that their kids can go to college, and then they have a good head on their shoulders, and they start making moves, engineering,
podcasting.
Yeah. That's the second one that comes to mind.
Right. There's so much money in podcasting.
I know. I think we've identified a gap. I need to go start a push for the Hispanic and get a lot of money for Hispanic community.
Yeah. I want to talk about race though. I feel like we maybe we just, for the listeners, viewers, maybe we live in this really good bubble in Texas where we're at, like where we don't see racism. There could be places that we don't know anything about that they're like, oh, those guys don't know shit. But I think we should say that, we live in a huge bubble. We're in Houston. and a place that you probably would think you would see more racism. But in our little bubble that we're talking about, and we're all kind of in the same area, I don't see it as much.
Well, so I in Dripping Springs when I was growing up, it was a lot, predominantly white people. Like there was a few Hispanic families in Dripping, and we were one of them. If you can't tell. And
hardly.
Yeah, hardly. You're pretty washed.
Just barely,
washed up, yeah.
You kind of bleached.
You need to get outside, boy.
But again, I never felt like an outcast, or I never felt, like someone was being prejudiced against me at all. Not once. And Dripping Springs is, I mean, now it's a booming city.
It's a megatropolis now. Yeah.
Now you can't tell where Dripping ends and Austin begins. But when I was growing up, it was a country town. You couldn't get more, conservative than that,
So the outline, and that's across the whole country. Your rural areas tend to be more conservative. They're a lot more accepting. But you go to the wrong place in Houston, Hispanic or white, or black in some places, talk about Vidor, Texas. I mean, y'all probably have heard the stories about that, but if you're black, you don't let the sun go down on you in Vidor. That's a shame. But yes, we're insulated, but I think it's geographically, it's a small pod, a small area of insulation, and it's shrinking. Okay. And the problem with that is that racism has been developed and ingrained over years, and it's people can be racist and not even know why they're racist, and that's a problem.
That could be it too. Yeah.
If someone was growing up under those, I mean, there's obviously, I'm not a racist denier or something. Like, there's obviously people.
There is racism.
Yeah, there's obviously that exists. So I don't want to come off that there's no such thing as racism. But
yeah,
I think for the vast majority of people are good people.
Right. I'd agree.
There's also, like when I was saying, we're in our bubble. Well, I also can't say I see it through the eyes of that person. I see it through my eyes, and what I see is this way. But
you're white as hell.
If I were,
glow in the dark.
If I were a black man or an Indian man or something like that, I don't know. I mean, I get like this is not comparable, but remember I was telling you like how I felt different. Like I'm in Texas, I got long hair, beard.
Right.
I feel,
poor baby.
I feel like
that would have been a daily ass whooping when no.
Yeah, exactly. No, it would.
I had long hair.
It would. It's not being compared to racism at all. But I would go in and. They would call me skinny jeans and what else? You'd call me top knot or hippie boy, and it's like I see where it can go. And so when I was a little younger, I hated that shit. Now I don't care. I don't care what you call me anything. But yeah, it's I could see it that way from that lens. That's not completely comparable or has the historical background, but I see that like. I was being treated differently for how I looked, and because I didn't hunt or eat meat or have a crew cut like this guy.
Yeah, man, he's just letting it all out. Where's the tissues at?
Yeah. Do you have some?
He's really venting right now.
No, he's letting it go.
Okay, turn his mic off and let's hear it.
Turn that shit off.
But but I don't know.
No, I genuinely feel that America's great. There are probably a lot of racist people, but I've never, as someone of color, if you count Mexican as color, I've never experienced that in Texas.
When we talk about the spectrum too, like too far left, too far right, too far, woke, whatever you want to call it. There's such a thing as too far. There's such a thing as too little. And I think we all know there's a balance to things that need to happen.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, the pendulum will swing. I mean, we're headed way over here left for you guys on the camera seeing them. Okay, we're headed way left. But I think that pendulum's fixing to turn and come back, and it does that over time. But it's going to drive towards center. It always does. At some point.
Well, Eric, we had fun.
I enjoyed it.
It was good. I like talking
just like a regular conversation. You got to come to the office sometime so we can have these offices.
Just bring all the equipment.
I'd love to. I need to go sit back over there with y'all.
Yeah, we got a cubicle.
You got a couple, right?
Right.
Oh, this is a good conversation. I'm glad we could talk about this stuff and not get mad or angry or call each other's names or.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
that's it.
And I think we probably all have different beliefs and everything, and politically and religiously. and we had a good discussion. So
right.
It was good.
I felt good about it. Thanks for having me on.
You want to give people your Instagram account and your Twitter and all that good stuff?
I don't believe in none of that crap.
He goes, all I have is TikTok, all right?
No, I don't even have TikTok. I got Facebook and I see reels off TikTok, but I'm old school, you know.
Well,
write me a letter if you want to get to me.
What's your P.O. box?
Yeah, BR549.
Yeah.
Well, we had fun, Eric.
I did too. Thanks for having me on, man. Enjoyed it.